In the past, I've always been guilty of growing my own cut flowers but never saving the seed from the flowers that I grew. I always thought it was more efficient to let the seed retailers do all the harvesting, drying and storing of seeds until I was ready to buy them. But recently I've been doing some research on seed saving and I've changed my mind. From now on I'll be saving as much seed as possible, and although it takes a little bit more time and effort, the benefits definitely outweigh the costs. In this video I'm going to highlight the reasons why now is more important than ever to be saving your own seed, the basics of plant breeding and how to save your own seed. So let's get into it. First of all, I want to give you 5 reasons why you should be saving your own seed, the last one being the most important reason to save your own seed. Reason number 1 is to save money. When I was farming on around half an acre, I was spending about £550 a year on seed. Now, as a business expense, that doesn't seem like a huge amount, but if we can save any of that, then that's a bonus, right? You could save your own seeds and treat yourself to a little something, but maybe not more seeds. The second reason you should save your own seed is it's going to be fresher than anything you can buy from a retailer, and fresher seed means better germination. So long as you sow it correctly, then the germination is going to be great on your own saved seed, and I'll be covering how to store your seed properly to make sure the germination is perfect at the end of the video.
Reason number 3 is to give yourself a greater connection with nature and the plant's full life cycle. Becoming more in tune with how systems work will make you into a better and more observant grower. We learn best by doing and observing, so checking to see when seeds are ripe or noticing which pollinators are around all contributes to greater knowledge. Don't worry about making mistakes either. In my opinion, it's the best way to learn.
Reason number 4 to save your own seed is this. Have you ever gone online to your favourite seed retailer and realised that the variety that you really wanted to grow that year has sold out already? Perhaps you were too late to order, or the supplier has had their own supply issues. Saving your own seed prevents this from happening and gives you seed security. Finally, and the most important reason why I think you should be saving your own seed, is to produce plants that are adapted to your own local growing environment and have traits that are specific to your needs.
Allowing generations of plants to grow and set seed is going to allow you to select the best, strongest and most productive plants. Over time, these plants are going to become more resilient to your local climate and become a strain bespoke to you. Consider it like adding another member to the family. And further to this point, if you're taking good care of your soil health and creating lively soils full of microbes, these microbes will not only help to create healthy plants that produce better quality seed, but the microbes will be present on the seed and help to give germinating plants a much better start in life.
Hopefully by now I've convinced you that saving your own seed is a good idea and you're inspired to give it a go yourself. Next, I'm going to cover basic plant breeding so that you know that the seeds you're saving are going to come out like you'd hoped.
The basics of plant reproduction goes like this. Flowers are brightly coloured or scented to attract pollinators. A pollinator comes along and feeds on the nectar produced by the plant. The pollinator rubs itself on the anthers containing the pollen, which are the male reproductive parts. The pollinator then moves onto another flower and rubs the pollen on its legs against the stigma, the female reproductive parts. The male and female genetic material is mixed in the ovary to form viable seed. Pollination of one plant to another ensures genetic diversity into the next generation.
Now, you'll notice that when you buy seeds from a retailer that they're either going to be F1 hybrids or open pollinated. It might not necessarily say that it's open pollinated on the envelope, but it usually states if it is a hybrid. I'm going to go into a bit of detail about both of these so you can be well informed when you're collecting seeds from either of these. You might notice when you buy seeds from a retailer that it has a label on it saying that it is an F1 hybrid.
This is when 2 parent plants are crossbred to produce offspring that has specific desirable characteristics like flower colour, disease resistance or size. Production of F1 hybrid seeds happens in a very controlled way to make sure 2 parents are crossed. If you save seed from an F1 hybrid, you're likely to get offspring that have many different traits from both parents of the F1 hybrid rather than traits of the F1 hybrid itself.
Openly pollinated seeds will grow into plants that are generally true to type from generation to generation. They have lots of genetic diversity within them, which causes some variability, but this helps with resilience.
Pollination can occur by hand, insects or wind. Openly pollinated plants usually have lots of genetic variability within them, which helps them to adapt to local areas. We can use this to our advantage when saving our own seed by selecting the plants that have the most desirable traits such as stem length or good health.
It's important to know that the seed collected from a plant won't necessarily come out like the parent.
If you're growing more than one variety of the same species, then there's a chance they'll cross-pollinate and produce offspring that has mixed traits. It's helpful to know the Latin names of the plants you're growing to figure out whether this might happen. For example, there's usually two types of Ammi that we grow as flower farmers, Ammi majus and Ammi visnaga. The Latin names of these two plants are different, meaning they are separate species. They won't be able to crossbreed, meaning we can grow and save seed from both species without worrying about them crossing.
However, some species have different varieties and they are the same species but they just look a little different. They have different traits, such as these Cosmos. This is Cosmos purity and this is Cosmos apricota. If you're growing more than one variety of a species in your garden, then it's likely that these are going to get cross-pollinated and the offspring is going to be a mixture of all of the different colours and shapes of flowers. If you want to save seed from a particular variety, for example this purity, then make sure you're growing only purity on site. However, it can be fun to save your own seed from mixtures of different varieties because you never know what you're going to get the following year. You might get some really cool and interesting different colours and shapes from the subsequent generation of a mixture of different varieties. Some plants are capable of self-pollination, such as these zinnias behind me. They ensure their survival to the next generation by pollinating themselves. They do this in environments where their genetic traits are favourable or there are a lack of pollinating insects around. With self-pollinating species like zinnia, you can self-pollinate them by hand to make sure you're producing offspring with similar traits to the parent. Hopefully by now you're clear on which plants make good candidates for seed saving. Remember, if you want to save seed that looks like the parent plant, then choose open pollinated plants and make sure that is the only variety on site. Alternatively, if you're happy with a potluck and you want to experiment and see which varieties you can come up with on your own, then have a go at saving some seed from plants which may have been cross-pollinated. You're probably itching to get out into the garden now and save your own seed. So next, I've put together 6 steps that will ensure success in seed saving.
Step 1 is to make sure you've got the right tools and equipment for seed saving. You'll need some snips and some brown paper bags or buckets for collecting your material into. Step 2. Head out into the garden on a dry, sunny afternoon when the dew has evaporated and everything seems pretty dry. Step 3. Choose which plants to take seeds from. Choose strong, vigorous plants that have desirable traits and avoid anything that looks unhealthy. You might even want to earmark certain plants with a tag earlier on in the season to make sure you save seed from it when it's ready. Usually the first few flowers a plant produces are the strongest and most viable, but don't let that put you off from harvesting flowers later on too. Step 4. Make sure you're collecting seed at the right stage. You're probably familiar with the dandelion seed floating in the air or sweet pea pods peeling open and flinging out the seed. Plants disperse seeds when it's perfectly ripe and its chances of survival and germination are highest. So there's a window of opportunity between the seed becoming ripe and the plant dispersing it where we want to be collecting the seed. Usually this is when the seed is a dark brown colour. Step 5. Snip off the entire seed head into the paper bag while you're in the field and bring it inside to sort later. Step 6. Winnowing the seed. It's important to separate the seed from the pods and husks as these can be places where moisture lies. I'll get onto storing seed before the end of the video, but you want to avoid moisture at all costs to maintain seed viability. Some seeds will fall out themselves if you upend them in the bag, but some may need coaxing out. As long as the wind isn't too strong, smaller seed can be winnowed using the wind. The heavier seed should stay put while the chaff is blown by the wind or by blowing on it yourself. The cleaned and dry seed is now ready for sowing or storage. There are 2 factors to consider when storing seed. One is moisture and the other is temperature. Seed viability is reduced when exposed to moisture and/or temperature fluctuations. It's best stored in airtight containers in cool, dry environments. Avoid storing the seed in sealed bags which will sweat, and make sure your seed is fully dry before you store it. If you think there might be some remaining moisture on the seed, then spread it out somewhere warm to dry for a short period of time. The best place to store dried seed is in envelopes in an airtight container made of glass or tin. Many seed banks use the glass containers with rubber seals and clamps. You can also use silica gel to soak up any excess moisture from the seed, and you can even buy colour changing silica gel which can be changed out when it turns from orange to green. Avoid storing seeds in the greenhouse, garage or shed, as these places are usually humid and have wide temperature fluctuations. The fridge or freezer is a good place to keep them as the temperature remains consistent and cool. Most seed remains viable for a few years, but I'd recommend sowing it as soon as possible to get the best germination rate. There's loads of videos on my channel about when to sow specific varieties, such as my most recent Autumn Sown Hardy Annuals video, so sow as soon as possible when the time is right for the plant's own life cycle.
I hope you've learned something new from this video, and I hope you're inspired to go out into your own garden and save some of your own seed. Don't forget to let me know in the comments what varieties you've saved and why. I'm also creeping ever closer to my goal of reaching 50,000 subscribers by the end of this summer. I'm getting really close now, and if you're not subscribed already, then I would love it if you would help me out by doing so. And thank you to everybody who is subscribed already. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again on the next one.